Welcome to Beyond the Buzzer.
Hi, I'm Josh, and this is my best friend Kyle.
You might recognize us. We are rural American high school athletes from the 90s, after all.
And we're here again on camera after 30 years to bring you our travels from
Beyond the Buzzer.
Hey, folks, we're back here on Beyond the Buzzer. I am Josh, a.k.a. Ace One, back here with my best friend Kyle, a.k.a. the Duke.
So, yes, we are here for episode 4, which we have entitled Planes, Trains, and
Chiropractic deals. We're going to talk about that later in the episode. I do want to just touch on this really quick before I hand it back to Kyle. We're in the spooky season now. Kyle's got a little display back there of some of the Halloween collection that he has, but with his immense toy collection that we're going to talk about later in episodes. I'm more of the record collector, the music collector. So my haunting up here is behind us that Kyle and I scored in Dartmouth when we went over to check out some places in Nova Scotia. So I just wanted to say that
it was a deal he couldn't pass up. It was like $8 for Thriller. You got to jump on that all day long.
I listened to it all day. It was wonderful.
So here we go. Episode 4, Planes, Trains, and Chiropractic Deals. Of course, entitled after the great 1987 film Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with John Candy and Steve Martin, who we were both huge fans of. Fortunately, we did not have to try to sell any shower curtain rings to anybody on this trip.
We could, though. We could do it if that's what it takes. We'll also be sponsored by them.
Whatever it takes. But just a little background. So the last episode we touched on how we had ambitions of traveling across the ocean to Europe, and well, we finally made it happen.
Well, together anyway. Kyle cheated. He went once before me with family to Italy, but this is a trip of a lifetime. Yeah,
we'll go back there hopefully soon. But
yes, but trip of a lifetime. So we had a big motivator, and Kyle's going to tell you why. We talked about it last episode. But
yeah, we touched on it a little bit. We had, back in 2020, Kentucky and Michigan were supposed to play a basketball game in London, and it got canceled because of COVID. And we had initially in our chat group had tossed around the idea of going, and then it finally got rescheduled. And again, we had lost one along the way when all this was going on. So we were like, we can't miss this opportunity again.
No,
we had it, like 9 months to a year to plan it. And we're like, we got to do it.
And we've been thinking about it for 3 or 4 years. And it's the Cats versus Michigan in London, England. This is a college basketball game. It's getting crazy, folks, when stuff like this happens. But I mean, for anybody who wants to go over there, it's got a significant other who has friends, who's got family or whatever. This is a signed permission slip. All you got to do is just go. It's the Cats playing in London. So we were like, "What, green card? Let's go."
Absolutely. So we threw it out in the chat group, and like we said, our buddy Nick, who happens to be a Michigan fan, which I think, like I said, the stars just aligned. So we threw it out. He was in. Josh was in. Of course, all our Brandon fans. He was a little on the fence at first, but we kind of had one of those meetings with him. I don't know if you've seen the movie Basketball with, Trey Parker and Matt Stone from South Park. And we were like, dude. And he was like, dude. And we were like, dude. And he was like, well, you got a point there. Yeah, and then he was in.
And it didn't take, it's a big decision. You got a family, you got time away and everything else. But of course, Brandon warmed right up to it and just loved going over there. And so we had the group, and Nick and Brandon had been good friends through high school. Me and Kyle were all 4 friends. So we just, buy the ticket, take the ride kind of thing.
So the game itself was on a Sunday, and the initial plan, Nick and Brandon couldn't get over there. They were going to take an overnight flight on Wednesday and be there Thursday morning, just because Brandon's a teacher. He had problems getting off work. I believe Nick's family was coming with him, and he was meeting them later in Spain. So that was as soon as he could get there. And Josh called me one day. He was like, man, 4 days isn't enough. He's like, do you think you and I could go over there a few days early and hit a few other spots? And I was like, you're damn right we can. So
a plane ticket is actually not outrageous. You're going to pay the same thing to go to the Caribbean or go to Mexico or across country, and 4 days you're spending the money to travel. Why don't over there extend it a little bit more? And I've never been to Europe, and so Nick had great pointers on places that were close we could explore, and so we had to get some fillers. So get on the plane to London, and where do we go?
Yeah, absolutely. So Of course, Paris was an absolute must, and we planned that out. And going to the Louvre was an absolute must for us because, as we pointed out before, we're big history nerds. But the Louvre is closed on Tuesdays. We didn't have time to enjoy it on Monday when we got there, so we had a couple of, basically a day and a half. We're like, we could stay in London, but we're going to be here for 4 days. Let's find somewhere else to go. What can we get to on a train that's interesting and not far away? And we both decided that Belgium was the place to go.
Yeah, we don't know much about it. Really nothing about it, just a little bit.
Other than
Nick's told
other
us,
than we like the beer, we like the chocolate, we like the waffles. So let's go get the
yeah,
real thing.
right. And Nick said, "Hey, it's close enough. We'll try it." We don't know anything. We get off the plane, and well, show. Do you have the plane here? Where we?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
here we go. So this is Josh and I meeting outside the train station in London.
Well,
I gotta tell the story.
Yes.
So Josh and I haven't seen each other in 3 years since the get together from our last episode, and he was able to get to London the night before I was. And I
Just a
think
few
you just
hours,
stayed
actually.
at the hotel airport, right?
Yeah, I didn't venture out, and it was tough on me. I looked it up. It was like 45 minutes in, 45 minutes back. I was anxious to get to London, but just took a quick nap, and Kyle was there the next morning. I got to the airport in Heathrow was a pretty fancy. Apparently, London is a big deal. It's a pretty
Yeah,
fancy
it's
place.
a pretty big city.
I think people may have heard of it, and there's everybody's got suits on, and they got limos outside and these fancy sports cars and stuff I've never seen, and they've got little pads they're holding up with people's names on that they're receiving off the airplane. So I had a notebook piece of paper and I had a pen, so I scribbled a name on there and I held it up and I stood in line with all these people for a good hour and a half, and they were all looking at me very
Oh.
strange with a piece of paper, but I wanted to make sure that the Duke had the same reception the rest of these people were getting off the airplane.
Yeah, so I'm getting off the plane. Josh and I, we're big Rick Steves fans, so we did not check any bags. We're going carry on only. So I get right off the plane, but the signal for our phones in the airport was not great. So I was like, oh no, how am I going to find him? Hopefully he's just, you have to come out through baggage claim. So hopefully he's standing there. So I walk down the stairs, I come out and I see, like Josh was saying, this huge line of all these fancy valets with tablets, with electronic tablets with everybody's name. And right in the middle, a good, 5 or 6 inches taller than all the rest of them with a handwritten name and notebook paper. I was like, that's my boy right there. Let's get going.
Yeah, so the reception is made. He jumps. We jump in. We jump right on the subway. So the planes, trains, and chiropractic deals later coming on.
Yeah.
But we're on the trains. So we're just going to get off, change trains, and all we know is you can go under a tunnel into Paris, and there's trains that go there. So we just go. So there's the phone booth from the Luckett Winery.
We had to take a picture of the iconic red telephone booth. But I had been on a plane for a few hours. Josh had just woken up. Our palates were at their peak. We're in London for the first time. So before we hopped on the train, we had to run across the street and have a pint at the London pub.
Well, the World Cup's going on. We've never been to an English pub.
So a lot of other people, as you can see in the background, taking advantage of their palates.
Yeah, so 11 o'clock in the morning or so, we got 3 different beers. We shared them. There's tried the IPA. I think one with the colorful cup there was really good. Got a Guinness, and then we checked that off the list. We've hit the English pub during the World Cup, so that wasn't hard to get over with. And then back into the train station was just right across the street, and try to get across.
So one thing that we learned, kind of the hard way, but not really because it worked out in our favor. If you're going to go to Europe, it's good to book your train trips in advance.
The Louvre doesn't run just all the time for free. That's what our impression was. So we get there and they're like, "Oh, well, so when do you want to leave?" We're like, "Right now." And they're like, "Well, you can't. It's sold out."
And we're like, "No. We've got a hotel room in Bruges. We need to get there. So what can we do?"
Yeah, there's an ocean in between us, between London and France. So do we stay another day? Do we cancel our hotel room? Do we reroute flights? We're going to miss Bruges altogether. And then they presented this with the option of you can just take the VIP tickets instead.
Well, I had to, I talked to the guy, and I hate to name drop, but I was like, my last name is Wellington. Does that change anything? And he's like, well, that name does carry some clout around here. I believe were
We'll
his
s-
exact words.
we'll see monuments about that later in London.
But
So
but yeah,
they
we
put
just
us.
decided we came this way, we came this far. Our plan was to go to Belgium. We're going to get there. It costs a little more than we wanted, but if we had to go first class, so be it. So that's what we decided to do.
Yeah, we had a quick huddle, and it was first class or not, and we had a consensus very quickly that first class it was going to be.
And we had what, like an hour and a half or so before the train, and it didn't hurt that he said we have a first class lounge with unlimited drinks and snacks for you guys to enjoy before the train gets here. And we knew right then that we were going to get our money's worth.
We were
Absolutely,
we
without
were
a doubt.
hungry. We were hungry. Kyle is not going to sleep through any of this. I've barely had a nap. We need some food. I think the train tickets were like $100 more a piece, maybe. And so you just make it up in free booze and
Oh,
alcohol. And so but this is when we got on the train. But right before that we're on the train, we're still in that lounge. They've got a whole buffet full of all kinds of amazing snacks from around the world. I pick up my first beer, just enjoying hanging out with my buddy. Here we are. I've never been here. We're finally relaxing a little bit. I get halfway through the beer. It's like, dude, Kyle, the beer here sucks.
and I was like, man, mine's great. I was like, what's wrong? And then Josh takes a look on his can, and he had picked up the non-alcoholic beer.
And so the it took we wasted about I did personally 15 minutes of the trip, and I'll never get that back of it. We switched gears. We got back into the right things there. Had some great snacks. Picked up some magazines. If you're going to go across the channel, it's only a couple people traveling. Spend the extra money.
Without a doubt. And that was the worst thing that happened to us on this entire trip. That's how amazing it was. So yeah, so we're riding first class. It's a four-seater with a collapsible table between us. We had a couple of Bloody Marys. We got a full meal. We both had, you see, you got your little individual bottles of wine, cups of coffee. I mean, they just treat you like royalty on these things.
Yeah, we like nice things,
We
and
do like nice things.
they provided them. It was such a nice ride. We were upstairs, it was clean, comfortable. The bathroom smelled great. I don't know. I've heard different things about going on this train trip, but if you choose business premier, you're
You will
gonna like
not be disappointed.
it.
So here we are. We did make it to Bruges in Belgium. We had to switch trains in Brussels, I
Yes.
believe. But
Yeah, we went across. I don't remember going under the water and coming back above the water. I do remember northern France. We saw some really cool fields and World War II monuments going across. Beautiful countryside. We switched trains, and then here we are in Bruges. It's the NATO capital of the world. It's like the Washington D.C. for the world. This is where all the people meet for and so it's a big deal. We don't stay long though. We got to catch another train.
unfortunately we didn't get to stay long. But if someone, I think the Bruges ended up being both of our favorite city that we visited while we were over there.
Yeah.
And if
So
somebody
Brussels.
came to me tomorrow and said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to give you the money to retire, but you have to do it in Belgium and live in Bruges," I'd just say, "Okay," and I'd pack my bags and be on my way.
I probably could maybe live homeless over there. It's amazing, and not to disrespect to homeless people, but if you could get over
Oh,
there, this is what place to be.
very highly recommend. So this was we stepped off the train in Bruges. We took the train from Belgium to Bruges, and this is what we saw. It's I believe is it December 1st of December, roughly when we got there.
Yep. And
So the Christmas season, Christmas markets, you see the
oh,
decorations.
40 in the 40s probably. You definitely need a jacket, maybe a toboggan, but it's not freezing. So I just got to stop and start talking about the history of this place. So this place was had a ton of canals and was connected to the ocean, so the merchants were coming in, and there was a huge wool industry here. And so the people there had textiles and had canals that they could run all the different textiles off the canals into the ocean, ship them across the world. Made really fashionable clothing. Eventually, it got high end. This became like the Milan of Europe. 12th to like 15th century, this was the spot for people to Europe to travel to shop, and it's a well preserved medieval city. And so a lot of these buildings are from the 13, 14, 1500s. It was cool.
Yeah, and we'll see some more of these as we start to travel throughout the city. And it's probably, I don't remember what time it was when we got there, maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night,
Yeah,
roughly.
it was late evening for sure.
So things were
Late
kind of
night.
starting to wind down, but there was still a lot of people out. So here's a good mixture. You see, you got a modern, I don't know what Okaidi
I don't
does,
know, the
but you got
fancy
this
shops,
just built in this beautiful, just, medieval
all the
building.
all these facades.
Nice mixture of new and old.
Really cool.
And
Kept
this,
the tourist kept it alive. That's what's going on.
yeah, and you'll see this spire behind us is from the Church of Our Lady, and we'll get a little more detail a little bit. You can see it from pretty much anywhere in the city, and it's oh wow, it's definitely worth seeing in person.
So walkable. So we're on our feet, taking off everywhere and going down. Here's the boost of the Christmas markets. I think this is where we got our favorite beer we've ever
Oh
had
my
that we can't
gosh,
find.
yeah, and we can't even remember the name of it. Yes, here it is, and this is going to sound so weird, especially if you're familiar with Ace One and the Duke's normal choices for beer, but this is actually a strawberry beer, and it was their Christmas special, whatever this brewery was, but it was like I don't know if you remember, it's like 11 or 12% alcohol. It was
It was, I
strong.
think, it was at least 11 and strawberry blonde, just a hint of it, but it's got that Belgium taste. And I'm trying to learn more about what separates theirs, but there's some kind of magic yeast that makes the beer and waffles over there the distinct difference. But this, the beers have been over there since 1200s. We barely have cracked into craft beers in the states, and they're already been doing this for centuries. It was really fun.
That
We had
that
two or three of those.
I've had a lot of beers in my lifetime, and that might have been the best beer I've ever had. It was, I don't know how to describe it. It was so good.
I completely agree. I don't know who the statue is of, but they thought he was
Yeah.
important.
And then this is, now again, at this point, I've been up close to 24 hours. We've been through the first class free drink round. So we just kind of started
Yeah.
taking pictures. This was just a ceiling in a restaurant that I thought was really cool, apparently.
But just a great city just to walk, just get there and walk, and every
So
building's
easy.
different. It's just such a museum. It's so
And
cool just to be outside.
and it's
No,
so I mean, again, this is, the time most people are going to bed. We at no point did we feel in danger, really. We'll
no,
tell a little story about that later, but we just felt safe. We walked around for the most part. People were friendly, and just the views were amazing.
just you're just walking through a medieval city that's preserved since the 1300s. And just to tell a story on the Germans in World War I, World War II, Bruges was not bombed. There's a general there that was ordered to bomb it and decided not to bomb it because it was such a historical and cool place. And so even that terror reign in World War II, this city got preserved because of its charm. And
Yeah,
so it's like, just walking back into the past, but like what a
yeah.
modern twist they put on it.
And this was just like a little enclave inside the restaurant. The restaurant was closed, but you can see just a little fountain and benches where you can sit out there, all decorated for Christmas. Just beautiful. I mean, if you get a chance to go over there, there's nothing, I can't speak highly enough of it. It's great.
No, it was the only small town we got to go to. Paris and London were huge. So I'm sure there's a lot more out there like that, but it'd be hard not to go straight back to this place.
And we're just taking pic. Like, here's a huge just entrance way. We don't even know what this building is, but
Some palace, but look at the
yeah.
streets.
And again, you can see these spires from these churches in the background, and just the Christmas decorations, just so quaint. Walking down these old cobblestone roads, just amazing.
I mean, it's not that big, but there's a lot to see just
It
with a
is,
short walk.
and this is, again. So this is the Church of Our Lady. We mentioned this is you can see the spire from everywhere in the town. It's 379 feet tall. It's actually the third highest brickwork structure in the world. And I didn't realize until after we left. I wish we had had more time. But inside of this place is the Madonna and the Child, which was sculpted by Michelangelo, not the Ninja Turtle, but the
I wish
artist.
that would have been cool to see.
Yeah,
That's amazing. I didn't realize it was that old in brickwork. And just the technology and the architecture back there was like, what people are doing with you know, the computers and the microchips and all that stuff today. This is like, this was high tech,
And
you
I
know.
think the 1200s is when construction we're getting. So here's Josh and I at the base of it, just to give you an idea of
Still
how
there.
big it is. But
Still there.
it's just, I don't know if the pictures do it justice, because
No.
it is truly a sight to see. So here's another view.
Yeah, this was mind blowing. I mean, like you go to Europe and you want to see, I don't know, what everybody wants to see different stuff, but you want to see the old world. And man, you walk right into it in Bruges. I was so excited. I was like, this is it right here.
Oh,
This is why
yeah.
I spent the money, why I took the trip.
And and we had debated, like we had mentioned earlier, when they told us the price of those train tickets, we're like, but then we're like, you know what? That's why we're here. Bite the bullet.
Yeah,
Let's do it
it didn't bump the budget much more,
now. And here Josh was nice enough. He was translating some Latin for me because I'm a little rusty on mine.
Yeah,
Let me
that's
know.
how old it is. A dead language is still on all their stuff, and it hadn't been destroyed. So yeah, all kinds of crazy cool stuff. Everywhere you look, the different treasure.
Yeah. And here's the tower.
This is
Just
not Disney World. This is a real place.
Yeah, and here's a gate. We're not sure for some reason. Again, even though we are famous athletes from rural Kentucky in the '90s, they would not let us go through this gate.
Same story on Oak Island. Our credentials we're gonna have to get upped a little bit. I don't know.
Maybe they thought we were lying. Maybe they thought we were imposters.
It
I
was
don't
too
know.
late. Monday night, maybe. I'll give them Mondays. A lot of stuff closes on Mondays.
And this, I just took a picture. I'm pretty easily impressed, but this big, huge door here to go into this church was just. I just kept waiting for Aragorn to push it open from Lord of the Rings.
I was able to build some dams and creeks at some point, but that was about the height of my construction technology. So I don't know what they were doing with this.
So, and Josh mentioned earlier, there's some canals that run through the city, and they
Everywhere.
just gorgeous. I mean, we just walking across the bridge.
You always hear about the canals in Amsterdam, but this was a southern Netherlands at some point before it became Belgium, and there's actually speak 3 languages there. So this is still really
It's such a
tied to
great.
the Dutch.
It's just a great mixture. You've got some French, you got some German, you've got some Dutch. It's just such an amalgamation of everything. I can't just stress enough how great a time we had there, even though it was so limited.
Yeah, it was short, but it was sweet.
So again,
Really
here's the tower. This was probably the second most prominent tower that you see, and it's actually from St. Jakobskirk Church, which translates to James Church, which doesn't sound quite as cool.
But it's the Belfry Towers. Is that right?
So
the
the Belfry of Bruges is probably its more famous
Belfry.
name.
And I don't know if you've seen the movie In Bruges with Colin Farrell, but there's a scene there you don't want to miss that highlights a lot of these buildings. So I recognized it immediately.
But yeah, you'll see this circular tower in several other pictures. Here's where just
stop
looking at me,
Swan.
We had a Billy Madison moment there for a second, so we took a picture of the swan. But again, here's this canal. I mean, just gorgeous.
Cue the swan.
Yeah. But and so again, that's the Church of Our Lady. That's the most prominent spire. Overlooking the canal. Like I said, you can see that from pretty much anywhere in the city.
Keeps your bearings as you're meandering.
Yeah,
from place to place.
It's similar to and we'll get into this in later episodes, but like the Eiffel Tower in Paris, if you can kind of get your way all around town if you just figure out where that is.
It doesn't take long. It's done.
And here's your second landmark if you can't find the first one. But again, here's the decorations for the Christmas markets and stuff down the streets.
There's no telling how many hundreds of these facades on these buildings there are around town, up and down every street.
Oh, yeah. And again, the canals. I mean, could you imagine just living right here and just pulling your boat up from the canal and hopping out and going home?
Having a meal.
I think it'd be fantastic myself. And
it's not downtown Heath, folks.
It's not. It is not downtown Heath for sure. So again, here's that Belfry of Bruges in the background.
We took those pictures off our own camera phones.
Yeah, that's my phone. That's my phone. Sorry, I need a little.
No, it's just staring at the pictures. It's so cool.
So here's just an alleyway we just thought was cool. Like I said, we walked around for 3-4 hours probably.
Well,
Just
this is it. We got to leave in the morning, so this is our chance. If we want to see the place, we got
yeah,
to get out and do it.
we're taking in everything we can. So here's the big Christmas tree again with the belfry in the background. Just the
The lighting was
architecture on these buildings is just amazing.
lots of shopping and stuff, lots of spas, lots of stuff like that. But we didn't get to see much of those. These old
Yeah,
palaces. Everybody had a palace.
like I said,
Woolen Mill Palace.
unfortunately, most of the stuff was closed when we got there, other than a few bars, which we're going to get to some of those here shortly.
But all this textile
The
wool money brought a lot of money in.
I would have loved to have visited the waffle bar because that just sounds like heaven, but
Those are
it was
two words that
closed.
should go together more often.
Okay, so let's talk about now. People here, we're familiar with Stella. It's a good beer. I
I
like it.
know.
I've bought it on several occasions.
Think people will call it a gas station beer, maybe even. This is just something to pick up to mow the yard, but it's clean, it's refreshing. There's nothing wrong with Stella, and
Yeah.
but here it's not the
Oh,
same.
it is. It's a whole different ball game when you have one in Belgium.
It's so
I would take that over probably just about any craft beer I've had over here.
I agree. They just got it right over there. 1366 till now. I think that's stood the test of time. So it was well, we have to start out with one of those. But we lucked out with the bartenders. A Monday night, nobody was in
He
there.
was awesome.
We had thick Kentucky accents. He was interested in our story, interested in hearing about where we were from. Um, our lifestyle over in the States and growing up there and sharing stories back and forth of their experience there. So he took us on a tour of Belgian beers from all over the place.
Yeah, we ordered a few on our own. He's like, no, you guys should try this one. And yeah, of course, he wasn't charging us for any of his recommendations. And
No, just opening bottles and pouring them for us and just,
yeah,
sharing them with us was great.
so here's just a little more of the ambiance there in the bar. But
Just
and one of the things I like, whatever beer they give you, that's the beer that's on the glass. And I think some of the places here in the States have that intention, but it doesn't always work out. Because there have been
no,
several
this
bars I've been in where I've drank a craft beer out of a Bud Light glass or something, but these always matched up, so you always knew what you were drinking.
and there's something about the shape of them, the way you can smell that I don't know, some kind of science to it. So it's
Yeah, because
cool.
they were different. It wasn't just like the same glass with a different emblem on it. They were all different.
And they were different, they all have that Belgium taste, but they're all
So
unique. So
so we weren't totally alone in the bar. There was one other guy there.
no, he didn't make the reunion, and there's doppelgangers in the world, folks. And we have a really good buddy we grew up with. We wish we could be in contact. He never jumped on Facebook. He makes rare appearances throughout Western Kentucky, but this was his doppelganger. Some of you might recognize that are
Yeah,
friends with us back home.
his hair is a little more flowing than our buddies, but we did dub him the Belgian Lister
Yeah, he
because
was
that's who he
nice.
reminded us of.
We
Also,
hung
dude,
out.
though.
I talked to him. It's all good. So it's just it's funny to when you travel the world, you still see Heath reflected back on you.
Yes, and Lister, we miss you, buddy. So get back in the swing of things with us here. So again, here's another beer. The triples are they're big over in Belgium. I personally love them. Josh,
So
I think
this,
he knows a
yeah,
little more about why they call them that. So go ahead.
I'm learning. So that was 1679. So yeah, it's just the amount of crap they put in them. Like you put a bunch of grain and everything in. It's a one, then a two, then a three, and each one of them brings more color, more alcohol content. So they do have a quadruple, but the triples are about as high as you want to go. Really, really tasty.
So good, so good. And so we tried some of those. We didn't want to be rude.
No,
So
and then
here's where we had finally decided it was time to call it a night.
we had to. We just, pretty much closed it down. We saw everything we could possibly do at this short amount of time there, and that's the point. This is not vacationing. This is traveling. There's a
Yeah.
difference. We're not going to sit on the beach and putting our feet up and just like chill out and relax. We're going to crush this and see as much as we can in as little time as we can. So we ran through the city, and now it's time to get back home. But there's more experiences to come.
So we're walking home, and like I said, at this point, I had been up for at least 24 hours, and we'd had several beverages. I think is a
It's fair.
fair thing to say. So we're walking back across the bridge, and when there are three guys
It's
on the
like Billy.
street.
It's like the Billy Goat's gruff, and I don't know what the story is. Like they're a little rough, you know, and they're
Yeah,
like, "This is our first time we ran into that." We're like, "I don't know. I've been warned about pickpockets over there and everything else. So what's going on?" They're standing kind of in the way, and
and they
so
were obviously going to engage with us. We couldn't just pass them by. So it was almost like, I could hear Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone kind of playing in the back of my mind, and we
yeah,
just
that's we don't.
had to
So
go.
I just open my mouth and start talking like, "Hey, what's going on, you guys? Where you from? What's going on?" Trying to make small talk. Starts to loosen them up a little bit. They're still a little bit intimidating, honestly, and that they're from Serbia. They're traveling with their friends who are from the states, and you know, I talk to the guy and I say, "Look, I don't know what's going on here, but if there's any way we could help you out, what we can do to enjoy our time here." And for some reason, he's just talking about how he's in a bad mood and he's got a sore neck and a sore back. I'm like, well, lo and behold, my buddy is a chiropractor. He's a doctor, folks.
So
So
yeah, so Josh volunteers my services on my behalf.
um,
Um,
I'm not
and
sure that you're supposed to practice with your license at this hour, but we don't have much choice, you know.
well, and I kind of had to explain to him exactly what I did. I don't know, it might have been something lost in translation there. But anyway, so we get to talking, and they're trying to tell me they're having lower back issues. Well, I'm pretty good at improvising chiropractic care, but lower back's kind of hard to do on a street in Belgium. So I vaulted into some speech on spinal biomechanics and physics and leverage that there's no way I could ever replicate in my lifetime. And finally convinced them that, I can't adjust your lower back, but I can adjust your neck. And they're like, all right, let's go. So the leader of the group, he volunteers, and I adjust his neck on both sides. And it was kind of one of those things. He stood there for a second. He's like, that was awesome. And it was like, we knew we were in.
Then
So
we were all buddies. We were connected. World peace had been achieved. We were sitting on the bench across the bridge. We sat there and hung out with the guys for a little while,
and
shared
they
some
turned
funny
out to
stories.
be fantastic guys. Like we had a
Yeah,
blast
I
just sitting
think
there.
they were just messing with us, but we didn't know what to do, and so we're going to use Ninja Chiropractic throughout our travels whenever we run into these circumstances.
Yeah, it's not the first time. It'll show up again. So we finally did make it back to our hotel room and got a little bit of sleep. And this was our view the next morning when we went to have breakfast. Like I said, that tower is just amazing.
It's so cool. The whole courtyard around it too. Restaurants, everybody's outside, like you see in the
Yeah. So
movies and
this is our
stuff.
table. They got the horse-drawn carriages. The Christmas market is starting to open and really get going.
There's no cars. Everybody's riding around on these. Like it's like, am I in the 1300s? I don't know what's going
Yeah,
on.
and it's just beautiful. And this was one of the best cups of coffee
Ever,
ever, ever,
ever.
ever. Of course, we had mimosas because we like nice things.
You got to start it off right. We're traveling.
Yeah, we
We're
had
traveling.
another train ride to get to. So,
Mm.
oh my goodness! And then, of course, I had to get a waffle. I mean, we're in Belgium. How can you not get a waffle in Belgium?
I don't know why I didn't. I needed more protein, so I went with the meat. But
But
I had a
yeah,
bite.
just
Had a yeah.
Nutella, powdered sugar. Oh, heaven!
Mm.
Absolute heaven.
Looking out across people riding in horses, going to the Christmas markets and picking up all the ornaments and knickknacks and uh, different essential oils and sprays and handcrafts. We stuff for kids. We enjoyed walking around and checking all the different wares, but we had very little room in
Yeah,
our
we were
luggage to
we
do
were
anything back.
we were kind of on a time crunch a bit, but we did
Yeah,
have time to stop at the chocolate shop. Oh my
which
God!
which there were many, but this one we walked in. I don't know. I just don't know how to describe it. I mean, like it is uh, it's endless amount. There's chocolates on the wall. There's chocolates on the floors. There's chocolates here. There's chocolates made of
And
shells. There's
some
chocolates
of
made of this.
they're so ornate. Like if you picked up those shells, you would think it was a real seashell and not chocolate.
So this
And
is art. It's art and chocolate. What was the lady say? Some of these are like 90 days, 4 years, 3 weeks, all these different processes to get these right. So we loaded up.
yeah, we did. And we tried to share with our buddies. They did melt a little bit before we got to them. So they weren't into it, but Josh and I had no problems finishing them off.
Yep, we'll talk about that in
Yep.
Paris, but we
So-
had a conglomeration of chocolate at some point. So I don't know what
Yes.
we were breaking off and eating, but it was all good.
So we're on our way back to the train station. So this is another church. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure this is the Cathedral Saint Sauveur, which I think is French for Saint Savior. But again, we just, you got the sun coming behind it, just a breathtaking view.
I read somewhere it's like it was 1376 is like the oldest still standing building there, and so all of these are started up in the 1200s and were
Yeah, there was
rehabbed through the
one,
years.
which this is backtracking a little bit, but right before we got to the bar, we stopped and talked to these people. They had just gotten off work and they were rolling their own cigarettes, and we just stopped and talked to them, and they were telling us, the building they worked in, which was like, I don't remember if it was a restaurant or a little store or whatever,
Little
it's from
restaurant
like
thing.
the 1300s.
It was cool. They were from Portugal, I believe. So the European Union's interesting because they get the passport to just go anywhere they want over there. And I don't know. I'm jealous of that.
Yeah. So this is the hotel we stayed in, the Hotel Acacia, again, right in the heart of town. Here's our
Walk out.
room.
It's not 2 beds, but we may do. We did not do.
That's
We
how
hit
they
the
do
pillow
2
and you're
beds
out.
in Europe. There's about 6 inches of space between you.
Just so prepare yourself if you're traveling, because that's not it.
Yep.
But
So
we
we loaded up and we're on our way to Paris. We had a quick stop in Brussels for lunch. So of course we grabbed some pasta and of course more beer.
and fries, because Belgium is famous for fries. They invented fries apparently, so we had fries over there too.
And then this is, as you can probably see behind me, I've got a bit of a Funko obsession, so I tried to bring Josh into it. I brought him a John Lennon, which is going to foreshadow some of our future adventures. But he shows up in some pictures.
He's behind me up there now, but we're heading back to London. We need John with us to protect us.
He has to bless our trip, and you can see I found out this is pronounced Lef. So I had a Lef, and I decided to recreate that tonight. Very good beer, so I highly recommend it.
Yep, this is just around the main train station in Brussels, and quick. I mean, like what was it? How long to Paris? An hour and a half?
Hour and a
I don't
half,
know.
yeah, not very long. So that concludes our trip to Bruges. Again, that was our favorite city. I would say for sure.
Yeah, when we go back over there, we're going to see all of it. Some of the current trips that we have that we're dreaming about are not going to take us to those small villages, but we definitely want to get to the small villages of Germany and Austria and Bruges, or Brussels. To see that.
If anybody happens to know any single millionaire females that live in Bruges that are looking for a partner, I volunteer my services.
As long as I get to sleep on the couch when I travel over there.
Yes, you will have a room for sure.
All right, good. We'll make that happen. But yeah, that was our kickoff. That was our first time in Europe, and or my first time in Europe. Kyle's first time up there. If you're going to be anywhere close to Paris, anywhere close to London, and you want that small European charm, show me something. Show me something. Yes, show me something better. It was awesome.
The only regret that I have, we had a little delay on my flight. We were also going to go to Ghent, and we didn't make it, but
supposed to be kind of a twin city and a little bit more collegey, but I think the architecture is very similar. So can't wait to go back.
Yeah, I can't either, but we have more European adventures in store. Like I said, we still have Paris and London for you guys to come and join us. So what is it? Smash the subscribe, whatever.
Yeah. Drop the people's elbow on that like button.
Send us a comment, a message, whatever.
It's 1944. They were over there. They had captured Bruges, and the Manitoba Dragons or the Dragoons freed the city. And so
bunch of maniacs for sure.
A bunch of maniacs, and there's some wrestling history there.
Yeah. But again, we're going to sign off. We're about to run out of time. So again, I am Kyle the Duke.
This is Ace One. Josh, we'll have a good night, guys.